Hello folks, today I'm going to be taking a look at the Ogre Warband by Mantic Games for Kings of War Vanguard. Okay, so let's take a look at the core Warband set for the Ogres. So this set contains 8 miniatures. On the reverse we can see 3 warriors, 3 warriors with ranged weapons, captain / sergeant, and the new resin Paymaster, along with all the cards. So, taking a look in the box, get bag of restic, one resin, little baggie full of all the cards, and 8 40mm square bases. I won't be going through all of these, that would take too long. What I will do is I'll pop one of these open. So this is the warrior bag. So what do you get? Get 3 ogre bodies, and this is the same 3 that you'll get in the ranged weapon bag. And you also get a set of heads. And then we also get the weapons. So shields are the same, so you get 3 shields if you want to do hand weapon and shield. Just checking the mold line there. There is one. It's not as bad as in fact there's 2. We've got one there and one here because of the way the molds are split. These are also sprueless plastic or premium plastic depending on the company you're buying it from, so this big bend hot water will take that out. Seam line runs along the edge of that blade, so it's not too noticeable. These are relatively clean. I have had some that have had quite a lot on them. Some people seem to have issues cleaning this sprueless stuff up. I have done a tutorial on cleaning it up, but it's not as difficult as people think. You can actually file it and remove the burrs. So axe and sword, another sword, and then 2-handed weapons, so get 2 with sword and 1 with axe, and the relevant arms for those. So there we go. Let's take a look at the resin. So this is the new Paymaster. So starting with the body, wearing a nice fringed coat. He apparently has all the gold in his bags, and either quite a lot of maps or quite a lot of deeds and writs. I imagine probably some form of banking deeds. More gold, bit of a seam line there. It's not going to take much to clean that, otherwise the casting is very crisp. Have foot on chest rather than foot on rock, because he is after all a Paymaster. And then we have this hand holding the writ or the reward poster up. Ogres are mercenaries after all. Beautifully sculpted head, really crisp cast on that. This, I think, is the end of the mace. Here we see he's carrying his own notice board with him. So a couple of spears holding a board up, again covered in posters or writs. And then there's that long chain mace, which I think that sticks in the end of. So let's get these guys built and take a closer look. Okay, I'm back and I've assembled the Paymaster. So I've left the back banner off. It should go into this little notch right on top. And I think it goes on possibly that way around. I know, it looks nice enough. It's got all that detail on the back, possibly bounties. Not really sure I want to have it on the model. I may just fill that in because I quite like just the look of him without it. I mean, the detail there is beautiful. Got that massive flail bellowing his orders away. Oh, I very cleverly left on one of the supports under his bag there. I'll have to trim that off. Cleanup was minimal, as you may notice, because there's still a support on it. It went together very well, and most of the lines are hidden from the joins, so both of the sleeves join with these massive sort of covered shoulder pads, so you don't even have to worry about filling in. So that's nice. Take a quick look at its card. So Paymaster, he has speed 5, so a bit slower than some of the others, probably because he's carrying a lot of money. Melee 5+, so fairly standard. Range 6 up, which is nice. He also has armor 5 and a nerve of 5. Crushing 1, swarm and inspiring. And as you can see, he can also pull a bounty onto people, which allows a +1 die to any melee attacks against that model with 1 or more bounty tokens. So obviously you pick your opponent's best early on, line them up and get everybody to charge in and hammer them. So that's the Paymaster. I didn't build the plastics yet because I want to try out to see what they're like. However, I do have some of the plastics built for Kings of War for an army I'm working on. So don't have the boomer, but there's the boomer and shooter cards. And I do have a shooter that I'm in the middle of painting. So these are the same models. The boomer is a bit easier to assemble than the shooter. It's a bit cleaner as far as build goes. This crossbow piece is separate to the underside. That one lines up fairly well. You might be able to see there's a slight line just there. That's the trickiest part, is to get that to line up. The rest of it's fairly simple. And I do like the look of the Mantic Ogres. I know some people don't like their thin legs, but I like it. It's a different feel to them. So that's ranged. And if we have a look at a Brawler. So Brawlers are the simplest build of all. It is just head-on and hand weapons. So you've a bit of posability in that to do with as you will. I believe Mantic are now making resin heads and hand weapons, so you can add more variety if you're going to be painting a lot of them up. And don't want everybody to look exactly the same, but you know, build-wise, fairly nice. That's our standard Brawler then, our standard warrior. If you give him a two-handed weapon, he becomes a Cleaver. Now there are two builds for the Cleavers. You have this wicked-looking sword over the top. I would suggest, because these are PVC, glue, the two hands are attached to the sword, glue it to one of the wrists, glue the arm in place, and then bring the other arm in with hot water, so it's easier to glue it to this right arm because you've got more access to just sliding this arm straight in because of the position of the pins in the wrists. Because sometimes you'll find in the casting that these have separated, like this one has, and I never fixed it because I was trying to speed build for a tournament that I never bothered finishing the army off for, because I'm slack like that. But yeah, so bit of heat and then just pinch these together once they're glued on the wrists, and you'll be able to get a flush fit, flusher than I managed anyway. The other Cleaver has this brutal looking axe, which I really, really love. And again, that's 2 arms go on, and then the 2 hands have got pins and just slot straight into the wrists. So that's a very easy build. Easier to put this one together than the other, although you will need to possibly straighten out the axe and haft. Big beefy armor plates on his shoulders as well. So that's your 2-handed variants. Cleaver, which obviously pushes the crushing strength up but drops the armor down slightly, but still viable. Then we have the Ogre Sergeant. So this is Grok and Magok from Kings of War. This is the Ogre Captain or Ogre Sergeant model. I've swapped the standard axe head with the double-handed axe head you've just seen off the Cleaver, because it looks a bit more impressive. I'm not alone in doing that, and you do get plenty of spares, so if you're building any of the brawlers, you're going to end up with spare 2-handed weapons, so you can do this yourself. And again, it's a lovely, lovely sculpt. It's a lovely look. I just love the concepts that they went into with the ogres. So if you're rocking a sergeant, you can see there, slightly better than your average bear as far as stat line go for die melee attack and defensive slam. While we're here, we may as well talk about the special abilities for the ogres. So they do get tribal defense, which is a warband wide rule for everybody to get bonus armor. High and mighty, you have no limits on large models, so if we're building your composition, the rest of the warbands are normally limited in actually 40mm square ogre-sized models. They've changed this, but it means your grants do not count towards unlocks, so you can't spam goblins to get additional things in there. You do get 1 additional spellcaster unlock to your normal limit. And intimidating, you can choose 1 non-large model when you're in a multiple melee to ignore for outnumbering. So that's good, because ogres are like to bellow at people. Speaking of warlocks, you also get the card for the warlock. So, spellcaster comes with fireball, zap and wind blast. Also cackle, so when he activates the model may cast the same spell twice this turn if it has enough actions. And fanatical acolytes, when casting, you can reroll 1 die for every berserker, brave or bully within 6 inches. Again, tying into the ogre's backstory and lore from Kings of War, which makes sense. They do get 2 faction-specific spells. So Battle Fury, 9-inch range, casting 2d8, a non-knockdown friendly model. If any hits are scored against it, it can make an immediate melee attack for free against 1 model it's already engaged with, even if it's already activated and or fatigued. That can be very powerful indeed, especially if you've blown all your attacks and all your power dice on something big already, and they've not quite killed somebody. Then they have to deal with the fact that if they attack you, retribution may be swift. And then they also have Might of the Tribes, which removes, or doesn't remove, but lowers crushing strength and piercing against its single target to 1 until the end of the round, and they can reroll field armors. So, very handy to keep your ogres alive. Apart from the ogres, there are also cards for Red Goblin. So these are the whipping boys of the ogres, Red Goblin bigots. I believe they are identical to your Goblin stat lines. The only difference will be, here you go boss. So anytime the model is unactivated, standing unengaged and within 3 inches of a friendly ogre, you can spend power and mark the red goblin as activated, and the ogre gains one of the following rules for the remainder of the turn: Sixth Sense, Marksman, Vicious, or Regeneration 5+. So, used to working alongside the ogres. They know exactly what an ogre needs and when they need it. Good little butler goblins. So that is the Kings of War Vanguard Ogre Warband. So there we have it. The ogres finally come to Vanguard tabletops. I really like the Mantic aesthetic for their ogres. The plastics do the job nicely, and the fact that they've been adding these really excellent resin sculpts over the past sort of year to various armies really pushes them onto another level. So that Paymaster come Bounty Hunter is a particularly nice figure, and I imagine he's going to be making it to an awful lot of tabletops, either as an aspiring champion of some description or possibly even a captain. Let me know what you think of the ogres below. Until next time, bye-bye.
Go ahead and check out our other content on screen now. And while you're at it, why not hit subscribe and remember to ding our dong. Go on, you know you want to click it. Go on.